Well, all right, there we go. Well, I guess I'll welcome everybody to Bigfoot Zone tonight, our Friday night Bigfoot discussion. Uh, we got Pat with us tonight, and Nikki Cologne. She is going to be running a little late, so I'm sure she'll be here as soon as she can. If you're now just jumping on, please feel free take advantage of this time. Go ahead and start your sharing. If you're viewing this from YouTube, uh, feel free to share as well. Um, One thing I did add, it's under the description of this live stream on the YouTube end. There's actually two links in the description. If you get a chance to check them out, there's actually two books. Um, One is a Bigfoot field guide. The other one is a research-based Bigfoot book. So check them out. The one is Wildlife and Bigfoot Research. No, excuse me, Wildlife and Bigfoot Field Guide in an Objective View. And the other one is called Learning Bigfoot. So check them out. There's links to each of them in the description on the YouTube end. So again, also, yes, if you're on YouTube, if you're new, this is your first time, take advantage of the subscribe option. Go ahead and hit subscribe. Make sure you hit that little bell icon.
Yeah. And we have a new viewer on YouTube.
Oh, is that?
Yeah. Like a big shout out to B-Rye. B-Rye is on watching us on the YouTubes for the first time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, very cool. Perhaps I'll see the name pop up in the live chat. As of right now, I don't see nobody on the live chat at the moment.
Yeah.
So
probably not.
At least
he doesn't have a YouTube channel, so he's just watching.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, so if he texts me again, I'll screen share it with you.
Okay. All right. Here we go. We got some people jumping on here. Sharon guy says, "Hey guys, hope all is doing good tonight. We got Delta hitting us now." John says, "What the hell? Who is in the dress? Who is in? I don't know what they're trying to say." Yeah.
He's saying who is the dude in the dress? I don't know if he's talking about
wearing a dress. I'm not sure.
I think he's talking about me.
Gary Spikes Jr. says, "I'm here." Oh.
Okay, Brian.
Well, guys, I'm glad you guys are jumping on here to join us tonight. Okay. Well, we're going to be talking about a couple different things. One mainly, there's one I think I might go ahead and get out of the way. It's not on the main topic that we're going to be talking tonight. Tonight, I want to talk about Gigantopithecus. There's just a few things I want to share about that. There's been several articles and posts regarding Gigantopithecus over the years. I recently came across one. It's actually 4 years old. It's actually from 2016. I've actually shared it around in a few places. And, I've actually had discussions about Gigantopithecus in the past. And I just feel that I'm going to do it again. And
yeah, let's talk Giganto. Do about it.
Yeah, I tell you what, it is an interesting subject, regardless of how you look at it and what you believe about it, and the theories that surround it. I've seen so many different theories, both negative and positive. And you know what? Let's get to that in a second. I want to get something out of the way real quick. Only reason I want to knock this out is because I just recently came across this. It's a trail cam photo. Now, it looks very identical and very similar to the Jacob photos. For those who know about the Jacob photos, well, this image was from September of this year, 2020, and I actually shared it on here. I actually got it saved on here. You're going to see a very identical posture, a very identical and similar position as some of the other alleged Jacob photos and other photos that look like this that people think it's Bigfoot. Now, I actually have a video on my YouTube video of bears that I've captured on my trail cam with the same identical posture and the position. All right. Now I've seen some people say, "Oh, it's a Photoshop image of a gorilla." No, this is not a gorilla. What I'll show you is a black bear. All right. And here it is. And Pat, feel free to weigh in on this right here. You know, but
yes, are we doing real or not real? I
not
guess
necessarily. No, well, this one here, we kind of are in a way. But I just recently seen this shared and posted, so I thought I would throw it out there just for a quick, little intro before we get into our main topic. But what a lot of people see, they see that it's almost like it's in a stretch position where it's grubbing, it's what's the word, scavenging for food like they do. And like I said, this was just taken last month, and so I wanted to throw this out there. And again, keep in mind, I've actually captured video footage on trail cam photos of bears moving in certain positions as they dig around and move and looking for food, both day and night. And I was actually trying to find that old video. I have so many different videos on my YouTube channel. I couldn't remember what I actually titled it as. So, but when I come across it again, I will definitely share it again. So, but a lot of people recognize this as a bear. A lot of people actually said, "Nope, there's no way that could be a bear." Now keep in mind, all these people, they must be experts in their own world, because I can't say for them to say that there's no way this could be a bear, which it just kind of irritates the shit out of me, really, because the thing is, I'm very well acquainted and familiar with bears, and I'll brag about that again and again and again. I mean, I've been very close to bears. I've observed bears in the wild in person. I've caught them numerous times on my cameras, and I watch them. I study them. When I'm out in the woods exploring, I'm very observant. I study their scat. I know how many people do that, but I'm out there. I study their scat to see what their diet is, what they eat. The times of year they eat stuff. I observe their tracks. I study their tracks for various reasons. But I want to say and tell everybody what this is. This is a North American black bear, ladies and gentlemen. This is not a Bigfoot. And
100%.
we could agree. Yeah. And you could, everybody that's watching, you could agree to disagree. You don't have to believe me. I mean, I study bears. I study a lot of different wildlife, because I put wildlife before Bigfoot, number one, because, everybody's got Bigfoot on the brain. Everybody wants everything to be Bigfoot. Well, you got to give wildlife some credit once in a while. You know what I mean? So, but, yep. Yep. We'll put this out there. Yeah. Yeah. Even Patrick Vaughn weighs in and says that, let me pull his comment up there. He said, "Yes, bear, and that someone would put this out there as questionable Bigfoot picture. It's kind of desperate." Yeah, I agree to that. So,
is it did it come from a trail cam, Daniel?
Yeah, actually, yeah. If you look at the bottom, you can see the data strip on the bottom. I don't know if you can see that or not.
Right. So then, where are the other 10 pictures of the subject that should be there?
Exactly. Well, that's another good point. That is a very good point, because now the other thing is too. A lot of people say this is Photoshop. It's the position and everything that meets this. I don't. When I've seen this on full screen, nothing about this screen Photoshop. In my opinion, it doesn't. But
yeah.
Let me see what.
Well, again, there would be more pictures. I mean, this is like what I think this is. People love to troll the Bigfoot world, and this is just either way. Even if there's some Photoshop involved, which I don't necessarily see either, even though I can't blow it up. But
yeah,
I mean, people love to troll the Bigfoot world, and they get some anomaly, pareidolia type picture like this, then You know, they pop it into the Bigfoot world, and they get shared around, 20,000 times.
Yeah.
And they're sitting back laughing their butts off.
Yeah, I don't know. John on the chat, he's saying, no, that's no bear. It's a chimp. No, that's not a chimp either. I don't know who this guy John is, but people get ridiculous on here. But yeah, I hate to burst everybody's bubble, but it's not a Bigfoot. This is not a Bigfoot. I've captured this multiple times on my camera, and I've seen the bears in motion and move into this position. So, and the other thing is too, look at the proportions of the back legs and the step out of the foot. That is common bear. That's like your average common bear length. Your average 200-pound black bear, even your up to 500-pound black bear, their legs are not that long. So
yeah,
that's something else to keep in mind.
And it's clearly a bear's foot where it's pushing off. I mean, it's a I mean, yeah, it's a bear, not real. I mean, a real bear. For Shane,
right,
not real Bigfoot.
I don't know who this John is, but I think he's trying to antagonize here because he doesn't know that I have the ability to remove him.
Mid-step. You can have his opinion.
So, Joni says, I told Daniel some of your pictures were bears, and she says I argue with her. I never claimed none of my pictures to be I have no Bigfoots in my images, so I never argue with Joni. I don't argue with Joni. I have a history I know Joni very well, not personally, but I never argue with you, Joni. I know I've blocked you and removed you multiple times, but you keep finding your way back here. So anyway, all right. Now we're going to get into our next topic. So yeah, that was our real or not real for tonight, and it was definitely a real Bigfoot, and excuse me, not a real Bigfoot. Kate. Wait, what's Kate? Oh, Kate's saying do it. She's talking about remove John.
Yeah.
And John says, Kate, how dare you?
That's not Kate.
That's funny.
That's not Kate. That's B-Rye.
Oh, okay. Why you?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. So I don't know. I have no idea. I'm just going by the names on the YouTube channel, on the comments.
Yeah, well, I think he had to sign. He doesn't have a YouTube channel, so he probably had to sign into his wife's YouTube channel or something.
Yeah.
So he can comment.
Oh.
So yeah. So whatever. It's a dude.
Yeah. Well, all right. I tell you what. Let me ask you this, Pat. To be honest with you, when it comes to Gigantopithecus, we really have limited information about Gigantopithecus, but we'll get into all that here very shortly. But what do you, right off the top of your head? I mean, what information, as far as what's out there, as far as information or data, what all do you know? I mean, I got a few things written down here. You might know probably just as much as I know, but yeah, because there's something. Eventually, we're going to get into talking about other things related to this. But
yeah,
figured.
It's been floating around the Bigfoot world. It's been floating around the Bigfoot world for a long time. And as far as what we know about Gigantopithecus is actually, there is a lot of speculation as to at how tall they actually were, how big they were, did they walk on 2 feet or not? That's speculation because the only fossil remains we ever found were teeth and a lower mandible jaw. So that's all we ever found. We don't have a complete skeleton, and probably never will, because of the environment that ape lived in. So all we have to go off is the teeth, which of course are extremely large, or they're about that big, and what started the whole connection to Bigfoot was back when if you recall, the Himalayan the Himalayan hikers who found the snow tracks back in the, what was the 50s?
Yeah.
I think it was, right? And took pictures of them. So one scientist, and I can't remember his name, but he was an actual scientist, theorized. He said, well, that could be some, living relative of Gigantopithecus. And so that was the first time that ever got connected to what at the time would have been Yeti, right?
Yeah.
And then in the 70s, it was so kind of Grover Krantz, who is also a scientist, but he was also a Bigfooter, right? He was the one that started pushing the Gigantopithecus theory, and pushed it hard. I think he really believed in it. He was the one that came up with, well, what we have here in America is that they must be Gigantopithecus. They came over the land bridge. They're a surviving relative of Giganto. And so that, that explains what we're seeing. And it's a perfect connection, right? And this was in the 70s when we still didn't know that much about Giganto. And as every decade that goes by, scientists come more and more to the conclusion, like back in the 30s or 40s, maybe even 50s, they thought Gigantopithecus would have been 12 feet tall. And then it went to 8 feet tall. And now it's about where it sits today is they think it was about 20% bigger than a gorilla, basically. And probably didn't walk on 2 feet. Now, again, all of this is speculation. We have no complete fossil skeleton to go off of. We don't even have a femur bone to get an idea of how how their mechanics worked or how big they were. But they were large. They were thought to be large herbivores. And so what happened is that, now we have today's modern technology, and they were able to get into the enamel of the tooth and do some sequencing there. And and what they determined is that Gigantopithecus' closest living relative today is the orangutan. So it was part of the same branch that bore out the orangutan. So it was not a hominid of any type. It was an ape.
Right. Basically, yeah, a lot of what you covered is basically what I wrote down. So I just threw my notebook away now. Different scientific articles
in the Bigfoot world anymore. Yeah. It just the subject.
Well, yeah, because
trying to say that Bigfoot's Gigantopithecus is, I mean, you might as well say Bigfoot is the flying spaghetti monster. It's like it's just there's zero evidence that that's the case, and in fact I'd say debunked, because when you talk about what people describe of a Sasquatch, it has a lot of hominid features, so it seems to be more of a hominid than just a dumb primate or an ape, And so, yeah, I think at this point, because of sequencing, and we find out its closest relative is the orangutan, which you can go see in a zoo, that it's pretty much debunked that, Gigantopithecus and Bigfoot have anything to do with each other. It was interesting while it lasted. God bless you, Grover Krantz, but it's, it doesn't seem to be the case.
Well, that's the thing. That's basically, yeah, everything you said is basically what I got covered here. But I wrote all this down, even though this is very, very limited information. Yeah, because like I said, several different scientific articles as far as,
except for the sequencing. The
what's
sequencing, the sequencing is not speculation. That's hard data.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Now, Patrick. Well, for the record, Patrick Vaughn on the chat mentioned that you can't sequence fossil, which, well, basically we've been doing that for like so many years now.
Look it up. We did. Yeah.
Well, especially, look at Neanderthal. Yeah, we got Neanderthal data. I mean, that didn't. I mean, of course, we didn't get that till that didn't happen till the early 2000s, mid to late 90s, early 2000s, when we finally started getting information in the DNA from them. So Neanderthal. Well, again, with limited information, as far as the location of where they originated from, China, Vietnam, India, and so. And again, you mentioned and covered that, yeah, the orangutans are their closest related relative, and now therefore they can't be related to a chimp, because the chimps are our closest related relative according to science. So even though there's a difference in DNA, there's a very small difference in DNA. We are still yet two completely different species, but yet we're both primates. One's human, one's non-human. So, now the other thing is too, given that where their original, what we do know, again, keep in mind limited information. Given the limited information from their origins, as far as their location wise, I just ran one of the things I randomly thought of. Now, you even mentioned the Barren Land Bridge, which it's believed that a lot of different wildlife and humans, Native Americans, that may have actually originated that way. From, if you do DNA studies on Native Americans, a lot of them are Eurasians and so forth. At one time, a lot of Native Americans made their way over here long before whenever, as far as Leif Erikson, probably way before the 900s. And I'm not going to get into all, but the other thing is too, a lot of people, even science, believes that the world was flooded. I mean, even the Bible speaks about the flood of the earth, and science even recognizes that the world was flooded. And then when the waters receded, became the land form. As far as the land separated, a lot of people believe that due to the ice age. Where land separated and new land formed, et cetera, et cetera. And so, where the United States and North America, the continent of North America, we may be connected to whatever else, another mass land formation where everything slowly separated, and over a period of time, and there's been put many thousands of miles between other regions and locations. So, basically, I guess what I'm getting, even though they originated over here, just like other people, a human, but yet we still have them over here. Of course, as far as if you date back, there's records of these people being here for long, long, long time. So my question is, do you believe? Yeah, I guess I should start presenting this in questions. do you believe it's possible in any way, shape, or form that they um, could have been over here, somewhere over here in our continent at some point in time, or made their way over here? Do you believe that's
Uh,
possible?
who? Who? I don't.
As far as Gigantopithecus.
No, there's no evidence of that. They went extinct. We well, see, here's the thing: we don't have a lot of information to go off because of the fossils. But I mean, it's
Right,
believed,
right.
but we can only track them back 1,000,000+ years ago. So the fossils we have put the species, around at that time. So I mean, so no, I don't think I just don't think that's in play. But I think what Gigantopithecus, people in the Bigfoot world tend to miss the point of Gigantopithecus, which is not that it's a Bigfoot or we should tie it to Bigfoot in any way. The point of Gigantopithecus is, yeah, that's correct, Pangea, is that we shouldn't even know that dang thing existed at all. We got lucky, completely luck based. It was a complete accident because a scientist in 1934, stumbled into what we call like a Chinese drugstore, right? Medicine shop, and he found those teeth, and they were called dragon's teeth. They did nobody knew what they were, but he just happened to be a qualified professional that looked at these things and go, this is an ape's, a primate tooth, and it's the biggest one.
Yeah, mole.
Yeah, it's the biggest one ever, and so he discovered the species, and since then, and so he was able to say, where'd you guys find this stuff? Oh, in these caves or down here, wherever, right? And so they started looking in the caves. I'm sorry, and found more. So we have like 1,000 teeth and one lower jawbone, and it was just dumb luck. Nobody was looking for that species. It just dumb luck. We found it, and
right.
And the reason why the teeth survived is because they're so big and the enamel was so thick that something like a porcupine or something else that would eat bones, it couldn't eat those teeth, so it just laid there in those caves, while all the other skeletal remains were long gone, and so it's a great example of what we don't know. The fact that we got so lucky, and we never should, to this day shouldn't know what Gigantopithecus is if it wasn't for that just dumb luck happen, and there's plenty of things we haven't discovered. There's plenty of fossils we haven't discovered. And just a side note, if it weren't for the fact that chimpanzees were running around in the wild the way they do now and in zoos, if it wasn't for that, we wouldn't know what they were either. We have no chimpanzee fossils, So there's a lot out there that there's so many undiscovered, probably hominids that we just know nothing about in the fossil record, because the fossil record is incomplete. And that's the point of Gigantopithecus. Not that it could be a Bigfoot, but that people in the Bigfoot world need to understand, and the rest of the world, the fossil record's incomplete.
Well, that's another thing. And Sam Thomas on the chat kind of brought this up. Well, it made me think of something too. I mean, they mentioned, how do you know there is no body and no evidence to prove what Bigfoot is? It might be Gigantopithecus. Well,
because there's
besides
no
what it might be or what it could be.
That's simple.
Yeah. Well, even I'm trying to think of the best way to word this. I mean, there's nobody looking for nothing now. Not that we know, nothing public. There's no open data or any information for people looking for things. I mean, as far as you know, here in the United States, I mean, I know there's archaeology sites in other countries. I know there's constant stuff going on in Peru, Egypt, and because I follow Brian Forrester. I don't look at everything he posts, but he shares quite a bit. For those who know Brian Forrester, he's a archaeologist, and he's always in these other countries. He does the study and then the research on the elongated skulls and everything else, and the missing people from certain missing tribes. And anyway, we have that acknowledged, and that's known information, public information that's happening in these outside countries and other parts of the world. But the thing is, we have, the only thing we know about here in North America is basically what's been found and discovered accidentally. And with that being said, as far as I'm concerned, there's no one that I know of that's doing any, what's the word? Archaeology studies and research, or any major diggings to come across any findings of what might be left here. We have evidence of the dinosaurs and woolly mammoths that were discovered on in farm fields and stuff up in Michigan, and then you got out west. You got there's actually dinosaurs. Dinosaur tracks that are engraved in. So stuff like that. So,
well, here's the thing.
Here's the thing. Yeah, go ahead.
Primates don't fossilize very well because of the environments they live in. They live in warmer, wet, environments, or forested, and things don't fossilize very well. Again, just like I said before, if chimpanzees would have died off even 10,000 years ago, we wouldn't have evidence that they ever existed. They just don't fossilize that well because of their environments. So there's a lot of complicated things to consider when you start getting into that subject. But at the end of the day, for me, again, the most important thing is that everyone realize the fossil record is not complete. We don't know what we don't know, But I think we can rule out Gigantopithecus at this point, just because of the sequencing.
Right.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah. That's another thing that's interesting to keep in mind. To make mention of, you said it yourself, is primate bones. I've actually done a presentation in a brief, study on that, and primate bones, non-human primates, chimpanzees, gorillas, all of the above, their bone density is a lot different than ours. And then as far as acidic soils, now we have found primate remains of small monkeys, like down in Texas, for example. Many years ago, there has been remains of other primates found in North America here, small primates. Now, let's entertain the thought, because we don't know, and I'm saying this for everybody watching and listening, and everybody in the future. We don't know. Let's entertain the thought Bigfoot is a type of non-human primate of some sort. We do believe, I believe it's safe to say we could all agree that it is possibly of its own kind. Now, chimpanzees are known species of non-human primates. One thing people got to understand and keep in mind is a lot of them, when they do die in their own environment, keep in mind in the rainforest, Why they call it rain, because they rain there a lot. What's rain consists of? What's rain made of? It's a form of acid, and in a lot of these forests in the soil where they rain a lot, where they get a lot of heavy rain over a period of time, that soil, that terrain becomes very acidic. And when it comes to primate bones, because due to their bone density and compared to ours, where our remains will remain a whole lot longer than a non-human primate, because a primate's bones actually break down and almost, I don't want to say dissolve, however, they do break down, and actually they're not as preserved as compared to us as humans. So that's one thing I made mention of, thinking of, well, look at the Pacific Northwest. They consider Washington State, the parts of Washington and so forth, a rainforest. It rains out there a lot. And again, the rain is getting into the soil, all that heavy acid, because rain is acidic, and it's that acidic soil, and a lot of remains. I'm not familiar with the bone density to other species, but when it comes to primates, the bone density and the work of the acidic soil basically will eat up any remains over a period of time. Therefore, we're at it's like looking for a needle in a haystack as large as the earth. So
and
I don't know if that's over exaggerating, but
yeah,
but
and that and
so
like certain animals eat bones, and they'll eat primate bones, they'll eat human bones. So really, to be honest with you, dude, the reason why you might think you can find the body of a missing hiker 30 years ago because you figured out somehow his last location was here, like here. If you go there, there's not going to be anything left. I mean, it may be teeth, like maybe teeth, because there are certain animals that they'll gobble up bones, to get to that calcium or whatever, marrow, whatever.
Right.
And so so after a long time, man, us, we just literally every ounce of us will just dissolve into the earth.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that takes actually, with what you just shared, we could actually jump on. So I like the way this is going, because I'm listening to you. I'm jotting a few things down as I think of this, because we started somewhere and it's slowly kind of boom, 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 boom. It's all connecting, and we can continue on. Actually, we could get gradually into another subject here, and it all relates. If we back up, we'll go whatever how you want to look at this. This could bring us to the remains of a Bigfoot. Why haven't we found the remains of a Bigfoot? It backs. We could start back to the same thing with what I just brought down to the primates, the bone to entertain the thought. If Bigfoot is some form of primate, and we talked about the acidic soil and how primate bones, do not preserve or will last in acidic soil due to the bone density compared to ours. Now, here's another thing, and I've actually made a blog about this, and I discovered that Cliff Brackman actually had posted a long statement on his website, and I love the way he added in the details. And I agree with him 100%. Because there's a lot of simple ways, I guess, to keep this simple. If you what you said, when an animal or anything dies in the forest, after their body decays, and all you have is the skeletal remains. And if the body has not been buried, by anything or anybody, it's exposed to the elements. And when you're exposed to the elements and the body decays, you got insects, you got other all the other critters that eat away at the bone marrow, and other animals will spread the bones, scatter them, and And then you have what I call natural growth or a natural blanket of the earth. Um, it's a lot to do with nature. Like, for example, I found old deer remains, old deer bones. I almost didn't discover them because they blended in with the with the moss. And a lot of them had moss grown over them, and where they look like on the ground, you know, and I believe that's the case with a lot of things. Then again, there's some of us that believe there's a possibility that Bigfoot may bury their own dead. And again, to entertain the thought, if Bigfoot is some type of primate, they got to be, because regardless if they're human primates or non-human primates, intelligence on both sides, and it's believed that Bigfoot has a high level of intelligence. And I do believe, and based off of, I'll just say, based off my own encounter that six of us shared together, they work in family units. I believe they have a connection. They're not all in. I do believe they work in family units, just like a group of chimpanzees, a group of gorillas. They work in a group, and as far as, I won't get into too much detail on that. So, but with our known species of primates and other species outside of primates have actually been observed doing this. But I try to stay on point with primates, that they have actually observed by covering and burying their dead. It's not common, but it has been observed. Basically, a lot of times they'll use just whatever's natural for them to grab, like limbs of other branches and leaves and whatever they could use to cover up the the remains of their lost member. Um, so, and then again, that backs up to other natural occurrences, and and that's not even even considering the thought. Well, they could die out. Even if this happened in a some deep cave or den, where it's going to be even more challenging. I mean, how many people go exploring in dens of caves? Yeah, we got people that do that, but you don't hear about. I believe there's one caves and dens out there that we don't know about, deep enough into the forest. So, um, that's the way I'm looking at this. But what's your take on that? I mean, as far as,
I mean, my first thought is, they probably tend to not die near people. In the course of a Bigfoot life, how often do they encounter people? Probably not very often. And why would they drop dead anywhere near us? They really avoid us so much. I know we have interactions with them. They will interact with us for whatever reason you could say, but they would. I mean, that's just my first thought, is that they tend to not die near people, and it's hard enough to find. It's hard enough to find, man, when actual human beings go missing in the woods. It's hard enough to find them, and it really is,
right?
And especially if they die out there. So if they succumb to their situation and pass away, a lot of those people don't ever get found and never will, because so much time will go by that the remains just won't be there anymore. And who the hell goes walking around the woods looking for dead Bigfoot anyway? No, people don't do that. So, then the question is, how come we haven't how come we haven't accidentally found one that died, maybe 1,000 years ago? And, Europeans came to this country and started digging up a bunch of stuff to create the modern world. And maybe we should have found one there. And again, I'm saying, Not really, you know. I mean, you know, when was the last time you heard a construction crew dig up a 10,000-year-old remains of a short-faced bear? I mean, we know what those are because
Right.
obviously we have found that, in this country, but it's just I think it's a combination of their intelligence. They're smart enough to not die near us, or the ones that are left alive. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they took their dead away from us, at least, for whatever reason. That
Right.
wouldn't surprise me. So I mean, there's a reason why we don't find their bodies in the woods, and there's a reason why they're not in a zoo right now too. So
Well, here's another thing I'll throw out there and make mention of too that relates to finding the remains of a Bigfoot, because that we in the past we've spoken about that numerous times. I've been asked that question about why, with all today's technology and everything, why haven't we found the remains of a dead Bigfoot or whatever? We could ask the same question, even though it has been done. But as far as ancient remains of a bear that's been found, in an old cave, in an old abandoned cave. But that's one thing. When people present that question to me, I come back with another question. I said, well, why haven't we found the remains of a bear or a mountain lion that's died of natural causes? And then when I, without being sarcastic, I said, well, if you can give me an answer, then I'll respond. I'll answer your question. I said, you got to answer that question first. Yeah, we see bears in the woods. Yeah, we see, people see mountain lions. But find me the remains of one that's died of natural causes. Then let's go from there. Because it's the same thing that everything we just basically broke down and spoke about. The critters and other natural things that happen. And the other thing too, people got to remember, weather plays a lot of key roles in all this too. Because between the rain and every little thing that we spoke about, made mention of, we could break it down and so yeah, it's
it does happen.
Yeah, it's a perplexed question, like Patrick Vaughn says. So
yeah, it does. So finding the remains of a bear in the woods is not it's not common, that's for sure, but it's not unheard of. That has happened. Like, people, every now and then, I mean, dude, there's a lot of black bears in this country, so but a mountain lion, I've never, and I'm sure it's happened, but I've never ever heard anyone just coming across a dead mountain lion in the woods on a hike or even off trail, or I'm sure it's happened, but that would be even that would be extremely rare. Yeah.
Absolutely. Hold on. Keep talking. I'll be right back.
Yeah. What's up, guys? Who else still in chat? I still got my Gary? You still here, buddy? B-Rye, you still around? Let's talk. Let's talk Squatch, guys. Okay, wow, that was way quicker than I thought it was going to
be. Yeah. No, I just went to go get something that during one of my hikes out in the woods, and this is to me a trophy, because I would consider this a very rare find. But yeah, this is a black bear skull. So, and again, to me, this is a rare find, and
there you go.
Yeah, right here in Virginia. So, but I knew what it was. I knew exactly what it was, and I was excited. I was like a kid in a candy store when I found this, because to me, this is a rare find. But Yep, I keep this on my mantle because it's cool. It's still got its 2 front teeth. So, but yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Dude, see, and so you're an example of that. Even though you didn't find, like like a black bear's body that had just maybe died a week before or something, which is
yeah,
probably what people are thinking about when they say, why don't we find a dead Bigfoot body? But still, dude, you found the remains of a bear just out in the woods, random. Holy cow! That's
right.
you're an example of
Like
just how more common that is than people would think.
right.
Yeah.
Um, you know, I come across other natural things that a lot of people come across. You know, I
Mm.
like to call myself between that and the antlers and stuff I find.
Yeah.
Well, I've only found a few antlers, from shed antlers and stuff, but I like finding stuff like that. I mean, but that there, is probably the coolest thing I've ever come across out in the woods. Physical wise. Yes, I've come across tracks over the years, but to have something physical where I can pick up and hold in my hand, and
Yeah.
now that's cool. That's different. That's
Right.
physical evidence of a known species that's rare, hard, rare to come across. So, yeah, but like I said, yeah, North America, I know here on the East Coast, especially here in Virginia, there's a great abundance of black bears. I've seen quite a few of them, in
Yeah.
my times out in the woods. Got them on my trips, and you know, but you know, they're dying off and hide. They go off into, I believe they go off into hiding. That's another thing too. When it comes to different species, especially cats, but I believe other species, and I believe this is possible that Bigfoot, when they become ill, they have their place of hiding. Um, your wildcats, like your mountain lions and so forth, even your
Yeah.
bobcats and a lot of different species. I do believe they know their time's coming. A lot of animals sense their time of death is upon them. But regardless, when they become ill, they go off and lay down somewhere, and they most likely they'll end up dying there. Because there's places where people don't expect to find. Like for example, I'm when I'm out in the woods and I'm doing my filming, and there's a lot of natural down debris, tree fall, and everything else. And I tell people, and even myself, I have to take extreme precaution that I don't walk up and spook a bear, because a lot of people think that they find caves and dens. If those ain't accessible, bears they make use of what's available, natural tree fall, whatever, and a lot of times they'll get that from their dens. A lot of times they'll dig out a hole. Yeah, bears will dig out holes. They make burrows in the ground. People don't realize that. So when I approach these kind of things, you got to take extreme caution, because even though a black bear, they're uh, compared to a grizzly, it's unlikely that they will be of any threat to you unless you corner them or they got cubs or get a little too close. But
Or food. Sometimes
so
food. Yeah.
oh yeah, especially if they're hungry. If they're hungry and they
Yeah.
need something quick and they smell it on you, yeah. So
Yeah. They might get aggressive if they want something that's in your pack, and you don't respond to that initially very well, which a lot of people don't,
right,
believe it or not, because you know what? Black bears are cute. They're cute. And some
yeah,
idiots fall for that, and Pete, they always say don't feed the bears. You know why? Because there are people in this world that feed bears because they want to get close to them,
yeah,
and
oh yeah,
if they lose their fear of you and they don't think you're a threat, they think they can take what you have, they'll get aggressive to do it. So yeah, that's why you don't. I mean, you just don't. Yeah, you don't feed the bears, and you don't don't try and get friendly with them either, man. It's, you know.
That actually reminds me of something my parents had told me. I wasn't with them, but they were riding up on the Blue Ridge Parkway, and they had my younger brother, with them, and they were riding along the parkway because up there, man, you can see wildlife off the yin yang. I mean, left and right, you'll see wildlife everywhere up there, and it's not uncommon to walk up to a deer. You could literally get within just a foot or two from a deer without it being startled, because up there they know they're unharmed up there. They know they're safe up there. But and the thing is, a lot of bears up there. Yeah, there was one time they were riding along and they came across there was a bear. It was a small bear. Wasn't quite a cub, but it wasn't. It was still a young adolescent, young bear. And on this particular stretch of road that they were on up there was a short stone wall, probably only about 2 feet wide, tall. And they stopped so they could look at the bear, take a couple pictures. And what's my brother do? And my father literally yelled at him to get back in the car. My brother gets out of the vehicle to start walking up to the bear. Now, yes, it's a small young bear, but my brother doesn't have common sense. He doesn't think about these things. But Mama could be somewhere not far off. That's the thing. It could have still been young enough to where, the mother could have been somewhere nearby. Because, so yeah, that's the one thing people don't realize. Yeah, they are cute. I've actually seen a video. It must have been I just came across it yesterday. There was a black bear playing with a dog, and I believe it must have been raised by people. It was kind of tamed because the bear was laying there in the snow, and the dog was walking by, and the bear pops up and starts hopping, trying to get the dog to play with it, and it was just it was comical, but it was cute at the same time.
So, and they are cute, but I'll tell you this, dude. Like, one of the scariest things I've ever seen out in the woods was when I was hiking down a trail one day, and 3 cubs came popping out of the bush across the trail. That's one of the scariest things I've ever seen in the woods. Because I mean, obviously, what's right behind them, and that's the most aggressive state. That's the most aggressive state you'll ever find a bear. And I was a lot younger when that happened to me. I was probably a teenager or a young adult, and I didn't have a firearm with me or anything like that. I had no protection, and so oddly enough, one of the scariest things that ever happened to me in the woods was seeing 3 cute little cubs pop out across the trail. It was nuts, but nothing happened. I'm here.
Yeah, I've actually never had. I've seen cubs, but when I've had cubs cross in front of me, I was always in a vehicle. That's one thing I could say I've never encountered in person while hiking is a bear with cubs. All the bears I've seen were by themselves and ranging anywhere from probably about 150 up to, I lie to you not, 500-pound or plus bears.
Wow.
Most average I've seen is probably about 3. Yeah. Oh yeah. Trust me. The way I described it to other people, yeah, I mean, it was massive. The head, I don't know. I know you can, but the head was huge. And I believe my father saw the same exact, because where I saw it, where I saw this bear, but a month later, my father had an exciting story. He couldn't believe what he was seeing himself. And when he told me, is that where he saw it? I said, Dad, that's where I saw it. I said, he said, it was just by when he saw it. Well, I was too. This was, there was a car that was in front of me. This is on the forest road. And, a car pulls, this little hatchback car pulls over, and I ride up ahead. And I'm going about maybe 30, 35 miles an hour. And all of a sudden, just up ahead of me. I said, "What the heck is that?" And by the time it starts crossing over, it's probably about 20, 30 feet right in front of me. And I swear to you not, at that time I had a regular Chevy Blazer, and the back of the bear was probably about a good foot over the top of the, as high as my hood, about a foot over above it. And the way he wasn't running, but he wasn't walking, if that makes any sense. It was more of a gallop, kind of like trying to get to the other side.
Mm.
But when I watched him, the way he moved and the way when he got to the other side, because as soon as he crossed to the other side, I had stopped and I rolled down my window, and you could hear the hustle as he went up that hill. It was kind of a steep hill that he went up, because that's the one thing bears are great at going up, but yeah, they suck at going down. So if you're ever being chased by a bear, go downhill, because it's very unlikely a bear will follow unless.
Yeah, yeah, maybe
So,
that's your best
yeah.
shot. Right? I mean, because you
Yeah.
you cannot outrun a bear, and you cannot outclimb a bear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jerry, there's something that Jerry made mention of right here. And
Right.
I'm glad he brought this up, because this thought ran across my head earlier in an early part of our discussion. Jerry Ramsey mentions adaptation to the environment. Every species that gets presented into a different climate or a different place, environment, yes, there's adaptation. And even though I don't believe in evolution, even though adaptation is kind of it's related to evolution, there is a difference with adaptation, when it comes to the environment. Um, it's like, for example, here's a great example. Every species that lives out in the forest that endures through all 4 seasons, that's called adaptation over a period of time. When weather changes, they have to adapt to survive. Now, a lot of species, if they're used to a really warm climate, and that's what they've been living in all their life, and you put them in a cold environment out of the blue without a gradual, build or grow, yeah, that's going to be a shock into their system, and that could cause all kinds of issues and crises. So, but again, if you're following what I'm trying to say is, again, look at the deer. Deer survive all 4 seasons because they're adapted to they when that time is coming, they prepare for it. Bears adapt to it. They have to adapt to survive to each season. Again, taking an animal that's living and grown up in a warm climate all their life, and then go to a cold climate suddenly, that's a different situation. If the cold environment something that's totally foreign to them, completely not of their habitat or how they used to live in. I don't know. Maybe Pat, you could probably word that better than I can. I'm sure there's a word for it, but to me, that would be considered a shock. But I was just trying to more or less make a point about what adaptation is compared to. I kind of lost my train of thought there, um, but yeah, adaptation to the environment, if that makes any sense. So
Yeah.
So,
over time, and as we know, I mean, the environment can change radically, either through geological activity. Ice ages can happen fast,
right,
very fast, and then be reversed just quickly. And that's why there's some, I mean, real climate change, that has happened all throughout the Earth's history, can just wipe species out or make them thrive, make others thrive, But yeah, sometimes you have to adapt on the fly,
right.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to the science of prehistoric, Pleistocene era, and then even during the Ice Age, when there's a lot of information about these times and these errors that I'm not so sure of or I don't completely understand. So so I will not try to present information based off what I don't understand, but based more or less I will based off of what I do understand and do know. But my question is, when it comes to the Ice Age, where basically I'm assuming that means the whole world was covered in ice, froze over, which probably I'm assuming that led
No, no, no.
into a lot of flooding.
Hoth.
I guess the
Hoth.
point is what I'm getting to is, go ahead. What?
No, I was saying planet Hoth. No, that's not what the Ice Age is. It's what it most happens in the northern hemisphere. I mean,
Well,
there was 20,000 years ago. There was two miles high, 2 mile wall of ice over where New York City is now. Like
right.
yeah, and
Okay. Well, yeah.
glaciers up in North Georgia. I mean, yeah. So the ice, and then it
Right.
speeds.
Yeah. So think about species, living species that had to endure through all this time. You know, they were more or less forced to adapt to them. And they wanted, yeah. And
A lot
I
of
think
them,
you said it very clearly. They either they either died. They had to strive to survive. So if they had a will to survive, they found a way to adapt to it. They had to force themselves to adapt. And what species that's living today that was related to prehistoric animals that once exist, they made it here today. Just like humans, we all had to adapt. We adapt every day. We adapt every year, to something new that changes with us, either physically, emotionally, whatever it may be, to natural causes and phenomenons in the world. So, um, yeah, there's adaptation everywhere. You know, some animals or species are strong enough to force into to adapt. Some are weak and end up failing. So I guess with all that being said, I think there's a lot of different possibilities to consider. What could have survived, what could not have survived. So, um, hold on. When you hear me stop talking, because I'm trying to read these comments to see if I'm missing anything. Because I haven't been looking at them too much here. Let me see.
there's some good ones.
Oh, okay. There's a couple. Yeah, there's a couple of them. They're conversating and responding to other people in the chat. So I'm trying
Yeah,
not to get confused on what's what.
there's some people
So,
to each other in chat.
um,
Awesome. That's good.
actually, yeah, their conversation is actually pretty interesting. I just don't want to make statements get too involved unless we are asked a question. So some of them have asked questions which are pretty good. So if you guys have more questions or anything you want to add to this, hey, feel free. Definitely feel free. If there's something we're leaving out or not mentioning, yeah, definitely feel free to jump in there because we're not perfect and we're definitely not experts on uh, anything. But yeah, definitely feel free to jump in there. Basically, a lot of what I like to share and point out to people, in my opinion and my views on the way I look at things, is to get people to really consider without dismissing. We got to keep an open mind. You cannot dismiss what you don't understand because if you assume something, then you're making an ass out of you and me. You know how that goes. Just keep an open mind to consider the different possibilities. There's always going to be what if. What if is probably the world's number one biggest question.
Yeah. Yeah. It's all about ruling things out. I mean,
absolutely.
Yeah, it's about having an open mind and and kind of going off what makes, like, I mean, I always like to go straight for what makes the most sense, you know, and start there, and then you
Right.
work your way through it, and an important thing to do is rule things out, which kind of, you know, like with the giganto thing, you know, I think it's safe to say that ruled out, and other things like that. So yeah, I mean, but there's so much speculation and theorizing that it's almost endless. And when it comes to the
Right.
Bigfoot topic, because there's no knowledge. There's not enough knowledge there at all. You know, I mean,
Oh yeah.
sure. I mean, there's an
Yep.
automatic closed-mindedness with most of society when it comes to Bigfoot. Um, and I think that's actually kind of understandable. They haven't been exposed to the same things. There's a case to be made there. If you took enough time to try and persuade somebody, you know, you might get them to come around.
Right.
A lot of people I know who don't swim in the Bigfoot world waters. There's a lot of people I know that actually kind of find it fascinating and are curious, a little curious about it.
Mhm.
You know?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
If you give, yeah, if you share enough information, yeah, that's the thing. I've actually gotten non-believers at least into the skeptic side where they consider the possibility, and
yeah,
I know it's best. It's always safe to at least consider, or at least have the mindset of a skeptic, because a true skeptic, is not going to dismiss something. I mean, they got the curious mind,
right,
but at the same time, they're not going to dismiss something, but they're not going to accept it either unless there's some form of evidence that will convince them.
exactly,
Everybody's form of evidence might not be your evidence, or might not be my evidence. Whatever it may be, but everybody has a different form of evidence that convinces them to believe way or another. So,
Mhm.
um, I do believe there's more evidence that's more stronger than what others. From some of the evidence that people claim to have evidence, some believe that's cool, but I was like, how'd that make you believe? Some of the stuff I've heard over the years, like, okay, whatever, you know, but hey, you're a believer. That's all that matters. But
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
it's whatever. So, but,
I mean, I consider myself a skeptic, but
right,
but I understand that the Bigfoot phenomenon is 100% real. So I'm skeptical of what it could be, but I understand the phenomenon is 100% real, and that's undeniable, and there's no
right,
argument really against it, you know. So, but yeah, unfortunately, in the Bigfoot world, skeptic has become a dirty word or a bad word, you know, because people equate that
yeah,
to somebody who's like, oh, you don't know, you're full of crap. Bigfoot's not real. Like, that's not skepticism. That's closed mindedness. It's nothing to do with skepticism.
yeah.
Yeah. But people think that's what
Have I
skeptic
ever
means.
showed you my ability? Have I ever showed you my ability to cloak?
Just once, I think. But I can't remember.
You see,
You're in
I
a
took
portal.
off. I unbuttoned my shirt.
Yep. Live on air. It's a portal.
Yep.
It's a cloaking portal thing. It's a floating Daniel head.
I'm Yeah, Bigfoot cannot cloak. Only I could cloak. I have the ability to cloak live. Show you guys that I got the power. Says. So
Awesome, dude.
it's funny that my green. It's funny that my green work shirt works as a green screen. Yeah, because this is my work shirt, or whatever. So. Yeah. But so it works. Yeah, Patrick Vaughn said it took 3 face-to-face encounters to push me into accepting their existence. Interesting.
Should have just been 1, shouldn't it?
And John's back.
Well,
I don't know. I guess it depends on
face-to-face encounter. Not 3.
Yeah, I mean, you would think, but perhaps it was a situation where his mind couldn't believe what his eyes were seeing. I guess his perception was like very unclear.
How are you not?
If that makes, I know you got eyes, but
how are you not sure on number 2? How are you not
perception?
On number 2? Like 3. Okay. Hey, man, I'm not criticizing you. Just you piqued my curiosity. How do you not get it the first time, Patrick?
Well, you know what to say. He said he said he's hard headed, but you know what to say. 3rd time's a charm. So there you go.
Man, whatever, dude. Like, welcome to the party.
Whoever this John is, I see he's back. He seems to be quite the comic here. So, well, first he says he called me Danielle. He says Danielle is silly. So he was talking about you a lot earlier. I think I have suspicions on who he is. Wouldn't be the first time somebody uses alias to jump in on my. Huh? Did you say you know who they are?
No.
Oh. No. I think it's Richter. It kind of comes across as Richter. It may not be, but it seems like it might be.
Nah. Nah. I doubt it.
Well, he was referring to you. This person was referring to you as a man in the dress.
I'm not afraid to wear a dress. I'll wear a dress.
I don't know. That's what this guy John was saying, but oh, now he says I've seen them more than 4 times, and I knew, and you knew what they were the first time I saw them. Okay. He said, "You know me, LOL." John who? What's your last name, John? He said, "Oh, yeah," and he's misspelling on. I think he does it on purpose. He says, "You know me, LOL." Ha ha ha. I told you it's Richter. Oh Lord, Richter plays jokes like that. Trust me.
You think Richter's stalking
What's
you
that?
again?
He's always going to find a way to do that to everybody. So,
right.
Yeah, he knows that. Yeah. So, John Jones. Hold on. John Jones. Wait a minute. I know the alias. I think it might. Hold on. Give me a second. I'll find out who it is. John Jones. I have to look at. If there's somebody I've chatted with before, I'll know the.
Oh God.
Hold on.
Mm-hmm.
Give me a second. Oh, then again, maybe I don't know who. Well, there's a John Jones who lives. They're from Harlan, Kentucky. And I have 4 mutual friends with this person, so maybe it is somebody I know.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't. Then again, I'm not sure.
Who doesn't, son? Who doesn't?
So anyway, John Jones. I'm not familiar with who you are. Anyway, I'm confused. So I'm not gonna. I tell you what. It seems like we just started this not long ago. We've already been on here for an hour and 21 minutes already.
I know. We don't even have a panel. You and me.
I think it's going pretty smooth. So
yeah, it is.
So tell you what, I'm gonna go grab some more coffee real quick, and while I'm doing that, I'll go and play that little video real quick. And everybody sit tight. I'm gonna go grab some coffee. If you have questions, throw some questions out there, and we'll be right back. All right, all right. I got my coffee. Yes. I'm drinking it out of my Cryptozoology and Paranormal Museum mug from Littleton, North Carolina. Oh, yeah. Real quick, I want to make mention, since I brought this up, it reminded me, since the event website's back up and everything, and I'm doing a little bit of advertising, or not really advertising, but more like some minor promoting, putting more stuff out there, sharing a little bit more regarding the event. And I've actually had people respond, people message me directly asking if I'm looking for speakers. So I've been actually dealing with a couple of people that want to be speakers for next year, and I have emails coming from the website itself. People looking or showing serious interest regarding wanting to be vendors. A lot of them they messaged me with details. I share stuff on Instagram, and the individual person that mentioned who they were, I said, okay, the name, and
for next year.
And I'm hearing myself talk back. I'm hearing feedback. Okay, it's cleared up. So, the response is that with the event, it's actually looking pretty good. So that's why I try to throw it out there a little. Oh, and one more thing, I'll make mention again that I did in the very beginning of this. If you look into the description, there is 2 different links for 2 different books. One's a wildlife and big field guide with subtitled "In an Objective View," and the other one is called "Learning Bigfoot." Check those links out. They're right below this on YouTube in the description. So, yeah, a lot of people don't realize to look into the description of a YouTube video, because what little do they know is if they learn to discover that, and there's a lot of information into the YouTube video where there's content and information related to the video or whatever, like what I just threw out there. So you'll be surprised what you'll come across and discover if you start looking in descriptions of your videos that you watch.
Yeah,
because a lot of the information with these alleged Bigfoot videos, a lot of them will tell you they're bullshit. So, or give just learn to start checking out descriptions, especially on live streams, because you'll be surprised what people share in their live stream descriptions. I'm sure Kerry Arnold does it with Bigfoot Odyssey, they share details and questions on who. Like if you see somebody on a podcast, you don't know who they are. Read the description; they'll tell you who they are. You know, if there is somebody you're unfamiliar with, if it's a new guest. So I know again, Carrie Arnold does it. You know,
Oh, yeah.
I try to do it. You know, I sometimes I do fail to make mention, but I try. So yes, indeed.
Yeah, the problem is that you know, YouTube, it has a very short description at the bottom of the window, and then there's a little tiny section show more. So you have to click that show more to get all the links. That if you put in like 10 links and descriptions, people have to click that show more. You know, that's the problem with YouTube. It should just be there. You know, but they make that a real tiny bar window, and then it just goes straight into comments. So if you don't hit that show more, you're not going to get any of that stuff.
Oh yeah.
Patrick asked another very good question.
Who's that now, Patrick?
Yeah, Patrick Vaughn.
What was it related to? I'll try to. Oh, wait a minute. I think I see it right here. I had to scroll up a little bit. Do you think their existence will become obvious at some point to the whole of a society? That is interesting. Do you think their existence will become obvious at some point? Well, you know, based off of what a lot of other people said, a lot of people don't think it will. Then again, I think I don't know. There's so many people that are struck on it being not real. It's, you know, there's a lot of people, you know, I've always tried to put my mind and try to think like a non-believer. What is it that's so hard for them to understand something? Because, you know, way back when there's all these different weird species, regardless if it was some kind of mammal or whatever it was that it once existed. There's things like, if we look back and take the time to look at all the different known species that once were known to exist, like how the heck did something like that ugly and funky looking ever exist? And it's not here now. But here's something that people could, you know, they don't want to think about a hairy man, you know, what appears to be like a hairy man or some giant ape roaming the forest. I just don't get some people that, you know, something that's more, I would think it would be more logical or more, my new word I like to use a lot, plausible. I don't know. It's the way I look at it. It's just the way my mindset is, trying to understand how people not consider that possibility, you know? I don't know if that made any sense. I don't know. I think it's hard. It's too early to tell. So
yeah, I mean, you're kind of you're sort of coming at it at an angle of like sort of like preaching the word to society and trying to convince them that's not going to happen. You know, I mean, it's a valid question, though. It's like he's basically saying, will the rest of humanity become aware that these things exist? Is essentially what Patrick Vaughn is saying. And yes, if they are some kind of primate or undiscovered hominid, if they are a flesh and blood creature of this planet, that will happen. It's bound to happen. There's no way it's not going to happen. But if there's something else,
okay,
maybe not. You know, maybe not.
The way you just worded that, I mean, that was very simple and easy to understand. If it is some type of, as you said, primate or whatever,
it's bound to happen.
Because as far as when people want to make right now, you got me thinking on this. For the group of people out there that believe it's some type of human. Now,
Maybe
we
not.
have, or let me, before I make this, huh?
Not
Oh yeah, I just want to make, yeah,
like
I know people that are in different, that do different missionary work, or people that do different, I forget there's other names for them. It's similar to missionaries, but uh, people that go out there, different countries and different locations. Like, for example, deep down in the heart of Africa, I mean, way down in the, we're talking that like in the Congo, there's tribes of people that still live primitive, that have no technology in their groups whatsoever. They live the way they always were back in the old days, and they don't welcome outsiders. Although some of them have done so, but what I'm getting at is we know they exist. We know those secretive people exist. Now, with that being said, as far as my understanding goes, every known or um, dialect, you know what I'm saying, of nationality, that's the proper word I'm trying to get. I had to build myself up to remember to say. Every different nationality of people that exists today, we all know about them. Um, so, if Bigfoot is some type of human, as some believe, I'm just entertaining the thought on both sides here.
not human, dude.
Well, I mean,
That's
I know. I'm just, but again, I agree with you. I agree. But I'm just trying to, when I start presenting information, I try to enter, I personally, because there's people out there that believe it's one thing and not the other, or it's both together, so I'm trying to be careful how I word this. So, because I'm trying to make my point to both sides of the fence here, so people understand where I'm coming from and the point that I'm trying to throw out there. Um, I guess what I'm getting at is, regardless of what you believe Bigfoot is or whatever. Um, so and back to what um, Pat had mentioned. If it is some type of primate, we will discover it, and it will be considered publicly known. So, but with a nationality, regardless if it's Asian or Neanderthal or some other person that's living on this earth that's known, if they are a new type of person, would that? I mean, again, let's put the primates down.
uh,
Well, wait a minute. That's actually, now that wait a minute. Time out. I'm as I started to ask that question, I'm like, wait a minute. Regardless if they're some type of person or not, that's still primate, right? So, I
oh
mean,
yeah, dude, a
yeah,
lemur mate. Okay,
it depends on how we look at this. Yeah, yeah. You have yeah, exactly. Those
yeah.
are
So
your
prime
New World Order primate, your monkeys.
about either some kind of
So,
other great ape is so a big primate or a hominid, which is you
yeah,
know which is a different species, is not human. Humans are human. And there ain't no human in the world that could go walking around in the woods naked. I don't care how hairy they are. And, when it's 35 degrees outside all the time, you know, like, so whatever these
yeah,
things, you could say at best they're close cousins, on the bigger scale of a tree, right? But they're not
right,
humans. I mean, humans are humans, like these things are not
right,
human. And I know some people believe they're part human, so that would make them subhuman, and I don't believe that either. I don't think you can create a subhuman. So uh, I don't think a subhuman could happen in nature. Um, Maybe I'm wrong. That's my opinion. Um,
Well, now
but
as far as different,
no, us, but in a different way. Obviously, they don't build spaceships, you know.
Well, you know, keep in mind as far as when it comes to species in general, there's different strains and bloodlines. You know, now I don't believe that's the same as a subspecies, et cetera, et cetera. But you know, I think we might have talked about this before. But let me ask you: I know where I stand on this, and I know what I believe. Now, you talking about subspecies, subhuman, whatever. But what about human? Do you believe in human hybrids?
No.
Again, I know where I stand on this, but okay.
No, not at all.
All right. I just wanted to hear your point.
Zero evidence to suggest that a human hybrid, which would be the same as subhuman, because what you're saying,
right.
like it's like humanity is like only half in them or something, like so I mean, we're getting a little deep in the weeds here with this. It's the key word is hominin. That's the key word, because that's like Neanderthals existed. They were not human. They were Neanderthal. Now, now we're again. You can get deep in the weeds with that because the two were physically compatible. You know, so you can mix hominids together to some degree that we know of, but let's just say let's just say they're a close cousin. And by what I mean by that, their flesh and blood was really my bigger point of this earth. Then yes, eventually they will be discovered to the rest of humanity. It's bound to happen. And if there's something else though that we don't understand, then maybe not. Maybe not. Yeah.
Now what about these people that say, okay, yeah, they also agree that he's flesh and blood, but they also believe that Bigfoot has these special abilities. What do you say? What do you say to the people, them that believe that?
I don't know. I mean, that's just another form of speculation. Almost imagination. Really takes over.
Right. Well, yeah, I agree. However, there's some people out there that claim, oh, well, I've seen it cloak right in front of me. I don't know what the heck they. Never mind. I won't say what I was going to say. But I've heard that on ones that
matter.
Do what?
It doesn't matter that someone claimed that. That's not evidence. That's just a story.
Right. You're right.
And as personally frustrating as that might be to that person, I get that. I understand it. But at the end of the day, one anecdotal account is not evidence. It's just simply not evidence. So in other words, I'm not just gonna go, oh wow, they can cloak like predators. Okay, so that's knowledge to me now because somebody else said it.
Yeah.
That's not how the world works, man. That's not how we. It very well may be that they can do that, or for whatever reason. You have to get to it a different way than somebody just saying it. That's not good enough. Yeah.
Yeah. This John. I saw one thing. He said. He said, "Let me speak." I don't know if they want to come on here or what. Apparently, he's asking where is Bobcat.
Oh yeah.
Wait a minute.
No, he's still trolling me. He's still trolling me, dude. That's
Yeah,
fine. Yeah.
he just asked where is Bobcat. I think. Wait a minute. I'm starting to put maybe this ain't Richter. I think this is Bobcat playing himself. Because I forgot he
Well,
has
Bob,
aliases too.
you know,
Jerry Ramsey said, "Go away, John." Yeah, I'm trying to remember who this John. If he says his name's John Jones, I'm trying to remember who that John Jones was. Um, let me. I might be able to narrow it down here. See, let me search my messages for a John Jones.
right?
And
And I mean, that's the other thing is that people can misinterpret what they see, and especially in the moment, and especially in a sort of a mind-blowing traumatic moment, people can misinterpret what they're seeing. Eyewitnesses suck. Just ask any lawyer.
yeah,
Like, eyewitnesses suck. And I'm not trying to compare, a court of law to, seeing a Bigfoot. If anything, you know, being in a court of law is way less stressful than witnessing a Bigfoot, or witnessing a crime is probably less stressful than seeing a Bigfoot for the first time.
yeah,
So yeah, I mean, when people see Bigfoot, then there's trauma involved, I think, in a lot of those encounters, and it could be what they're seeing just isn't right, or I don't know, maybe Bigfoot is some weird supernatural thing. That could be too. We don't know, and it's irresponsible to assume the most absurd reality that isn't a part of how we understand the world. You can't just assume that. You gotta try and get there somehow. And spooky
yeah.
stories is not good enough for me, man. That's not good enough at all.
Right.
Yeah.
Hold on one second.
Nikki's in the chat. Hey, Nikki.
All right. Yeah, I messaged somebody to ask them a question, just see if what they say.
Okay.
Because I think I know who this person is.
Well,
Because yeah, Nikki said I'm going to time you out, John. Because I forgot she's one of my she's also one of my administrators on here, my moderators. So.
all right.
And yeah, Patrick said that's why it took him 3 encounters. So, but and
Oh man, you're killing me.
But hey, remember, third time's a charm. Third time's a charm.
Yeah, that and
Bobcat, check your messenger.
for good for you for being that thorough. But yeah.
Yeah. And Raptor Crazy's asking, have you guys done any research lately? And we're at, if I may ask. There's a lot of people that get out there. I think I could speak for not just myself, but a majority of others that do get out there. There's a lot of dedicated people that do get out there, boots on the ground, and they find the time, they get out there, they explore, they search, and they find what may be possible evidence. And I use that word very carefully, possible. So, because when I'm out in the field, when I do my field videos, when I point stuff out, you won't hear me say, yes, this is a Bigfoot. A Bigfoot did this. A Bigfoot broke this. you know, Bigfoot is my last conclusion. So, other people, yeah, they're going to point it out and say this is Bigfoot, and a lot of them might explain why they believe it is a Bigfoot that did what they find. Um, However, I, I am very objective, even with my own stuff. Because when I find stuff that fascinates me out in the woods, I have to take my time because I know how it feels, and I know what it's like to want to point out Bigfoot is responsible for everything that we find. It's easy to have Bigfoot on your brain. In one of my last presentations I ever spoke about was in South. It was back last October when I went to South Carolina. One of the things I told everybody in that audience after giving my, I shared my encounters, I shared the way I conduct research, I shared what I believe in, and I kept it very basic and simple with them. But the one thing I told them, for anyone who gets out there, when you're out there in the woods, forget about Bigfoot. That's the one thing I said. Forget about Bigfoot, because Bigfoot should be your last conclusion or your last consideration. Because again, let's back all the way up. We talked about it earlier. Process of elimination, and I believe that's the key to a lot of this, defining anything. And process of elimination, it's for law enforcement, they do that at a crime scene. They analyze, they look at the possible evidence, and to find out the suspect, they have to rule out the different possibilities in different scenarios. So that's the way I look at it in nature, out in the woods. Because when I'm out in the woods, I know all the different animals, all the different species that live in those woods. And I look at the prime suspects that are known for doing half of what we associate Bigfoot to do, like a broken tree, bent over trees. Weather is one of the suspects. Weather plays a key role in a lot of what we find. And bears are notorious for bending and breaking trees in different ways. So those are two main suspects. There's other suspects out there, but weather and wildlife are your two main suspects. Bigfoot should be your last consideration, and that's a good question, Patrick. How do I choose my research area? Well, this is what I ask, and this is one of the basic steps. I've actually shared this in in one of my books, where I lay out a step-by-step platform for those who want to get into the starting steps into getting into becoming a field researcher. And as far as finding a location is one of the steps. And in order to find a location, you got to pick a starting point. My general location, where I do a lot of field research in, well, knowing that it was when I learned it was a vast location, where it was a lot of woods. Well, that was one of the checkoffs on my list right there. So okay, the area had my mind interest. I started camping in the area. I started doing small, minor hiking and exploring. Then, one thing I found out about the area, that there were sightings in the area. I've learned from people that didn't know nothing about me. I learned and heard stories from people that didn't know I was a Bigfoot researcher. People that didn't know me, that came forward and shared sightings that happened in that area. So, but that, you're not always going to hear that about a certain particular area. But one thing I like to tell people is find an area of interest. Take your time, get to know the area. You want to know your terrain. Find out what wildlife exists in that area, because those wildlife, you got to keep that in mind. That's very important. Because if you're going to be a Bigfoot researcher, study and get very well acquainted with your wildlife, your known species. Because another thing I tell people when I present myself or introduce myself is I'm a wildlife and Bigfoot researcher. Keep in mind how I stated wildlife before Bigfoot. because that's exactly how I present my research to everybody. Wildlife is the number one starting point. Because and one of the other steps I throw out there too is, okay, Bigfoot is our subject of study, our subject, our interested, our subject. The other thing is you got to consider, okay, to help in your research, if you're taking it serious enough, and also in the scientific form or looking at this scientifically, you make a list of yourself. Okay, Bigfoot. What do you believe he is? Are you going to look? Because to keep in mind, are you going to look at him in a human sense, or are you going to look at him in a non-human sense? And like for me, for example, I throw my side of things out there as an example. I believe he is a non-human primate. So, all right, now we got to consider characteristics, traits, and behaviors. Write all of them down. Okay, and then on another side to compare what we find and what we associate with Bigfoot, and look at all these behaviors. All right, it's easier. I should have had all this written down. So look at the characteristics of all these primates. What are they known for doing? What are they responsible for doing? What are their behaviors? Now look at what we're finding and associating Bigfoot with. Compare the two. Okay, wait a minute. Primates do this. Chimpanzees do whatever. They do this. They make this sound. They act this way. Everything I wrote down with what we associate Bigfoot with are known non-human primates are very common and known for doing the very same thing that we're associating Bigfoot with. And we have no evidence that Bigfoot really does all this. We're just associating. We're assuming. But there is a known species that is known for doing this. That's the point I'm trying to get at. But yeah, there's different steps and different things that there's a starting point, and there's other gradual steps and other processes that you could add into your steps. But it's kind of like almost like a Bigfoot 101, if that makes any sense. You got to have a starting point. So, yeah, Patrick, every team leader needs a tracker. Yeah. So, yeah, and he says, look at them as a great primitive survival experts. Absolutely.
I look at him and way more than that.
Hold on, I'm responding to somebody. So, yeah, if you want to jump in on that.
Oh, yeah. So,
yeah, go ahead.
I mean, a lot of things you said are good things, but at the end of the day, I've come to a personal realization, and I know that none of my Bigfoot friends will listen to me on this, like my Bigfoot researcher friends, that is, look, I don't know that there's any human being on the planet that can go out in the woods and get the best of these things. And there's really nothing left to study. There's if you can't get the best of them, you can't figure out how to observe them at great length. There's really nothing left to study. I mean, we've got footprints. We've got, they probably break things here and there. Well, for whatever reason, you can never know why. I think it's just a personal connection, man. Like, people just want to be connected to this phenomenon. And some of you guys, you just go out there, man, because it's very personal to you. And I get that. I totally get that. But
right.
There's no, I don't care if you have a tracker. You think you're going to track these things? You think you're going to follow them back to their little area, 10 miles away where they keep their young? right? Let's just assume, like, you think you're gonna do that? You're not. You know, um, you're never gonna get the best of them. People never get the best of them. We are not when you're in the woods with them. You're outclassed. I mean, unless you want to like take 100 men and try and shoot them or something. But other than that, I mean, they'll just run away, even in that scenario. So I just think all that. I know I have a very unique perspective in the Bigfoot world, but I just can't help but to call the balls and strikes like I see them. And what I see is, if you want to know something about Bigfoot, you got to take people out of the equation. You got to take boots on the ground out of the equation. You're just not. You're not going to get the best of these things, unless you get extremely lucky. That one just pops out from a tree and does jazz hands and poses for you perfectly, and even then, that would be criticized. That wouldn't be conclusive enough. I feel.
Right.
But my whole point is that they outclass you, man. Like, you're dealing with something that has you outclassed, Daniel, and has every other Bigfoot researcher in the whole wide world completely outclassed. And I know there's a better way. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I hope to experience your better way. I know you shared it and talked about it before, and I know it's a matter of time till you're able to start doing that.
Yeah.
And look, we're approaching that time of year when that, because the canopy's starting to fall right now. So we're going to have a lot of exposure out in nature here in the woods. And so, and for those who
2 months to come up with 10 grand.
Oh, so. Wow. Well, I mean, I don't know your finances or how that's so I don't know unless you go get a loan.
Right.
So, but yeah, that's gonna be interesting. That's definitely gonna be interesting. So
it will, dude. It's a game changer, like I've said a million times. I mean,
yeah, Patrick said, my point is I've tracked them so many places for so many years that the criteria of the whole areas have become redundant to the point I can pick out areas where they live. I'll never be able to outclass them.
Yeah. And you won't. And at any point in time, if you go deep enough into the woods and you get around enough of them, they won't think twice, probably, in my opinion, about picking you up and slamming your head against a tree.
Right.
My opinion. Like, you don't want to stray too far away from humanity trying to find them. Does that make any sense? Like, you don't want to get into where other people will come looking for you, or would not come looking for you. I'm sorry.
Right.
Like, yeah. So it's relatively safe, I think, to be around them, as annoying as that is to me. But you don't want to stray too deep where people won't think to come look for you, and they know that. I think they'd just break your neck and be done with you.
Yeah.
Again, my opinion. So,
well, like I tell a lot of people, with any form of wildlife or anything that lives out in nature, regardless of what it is or whoever, it's like a mountain lion. If you see a mountain lion in the distance, are you going to approach it? If you see, or just like whatever, you don't want to put yourself in that position where it's going to be forced to attack or defend itself. I believe, yeah, with any bit of wildlife, you know, if we encounter a Bigfoot, if you're that brave, if you have the urge to want to approach it, I mean, it's unpredictable. You don't know. Although there's been several reports where people have had, I'm talking within 5 feet sightings and encounters here, and where you know, or some not so close, but still, in every report, every close encounter that I've heard, the subject's always been, it was always been a staring contest to the Bigfoot. It went off, it goes off its separate ways. So, but then again, I think there's very little there are very little reports or information where the Bigfoots attack people. Yeah, I've heard stories. People's been terrified, and people's been attacked or chased. I mean, that's their word against ours. We don't know what they've experienced, but still,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So,
The only real injuries I can even think of when it comes to Bigfoot, like people actually being injured during an encounter, was having stuff thrown at them, and it actually hit
right.
them. Yeah. But yeah, I've never heard of
Yeah,
anybody. Never heard one encounter where somebody got physically thrown by a Bigfoot and survived it, or whatever, like that. That kind of thing. Um, I
well,
think
here's the other thing.
you know.
Hold on, I'm trying to look something up. On the assault. What was it called? The assault or the attack on Mount St. Helens? Are you familiar with that?
No, not a fan.
Trying to see if I can look it up real quick. When that supposedly took place. No, that ain't what I'm looking for.
Yeah. So,
All right, let's see what we got here.
Raptor asked a question, and I agree with you. There's a certain percentage of Bigfoot stories that are certainly made up, and we don't know what that percentage is. It's really hard to tell. It could be 20%. Hell, it could be 60%. You know,
Right.
but like, so that means if we say that that's the math, that means that other 40% is true, which still verifies that the phenomenon is real. But yeah, there's a lot of Bigfoot folklore out there that is either some other story that's been attached to Bigfoot unfairly, or just people making
Right.
shit up, just people making things up because they want to
Right.
troll, the Bigfoot world, or I don't know, maybe they're an actor and they're practicing their craft, maybe they're a storyteller and they're practicing their craft, there's 1,000 different
Right.
reasons to make stuff up, and the Bigfoot world's an easy place to make something up and have it gobbled up. Does that make sense?
Yeah. All right. Hold on one second. Okay. Yeah, because probably one of the only stories that's really on record, and I don't. Still, it's just a story because there's no evidence of what really happened there. But the the attack that happened I just looked it up, 1924, where a group of prospectors were attacked by what they described as ape men. Um, Yeah, Mount St. Helens. Yeah, again, there was a group of prospectors. I didn't read the whole story, but I don't know. Again, that's the only thing I really heard. I've heard some fairly somewhat recent stories where a woman was chased by a Bigfoot. That maybe that really did happen. I don't know. So, so I don't know. But again, like I said, yeah, with any wildlife, just try not to put yourself in a position where you're going to get attacked or possible harm could occur. Just like a venomous snake, you play with a venomous snake long enough, it's going to bite. You corner it, it will attack. It's a proven fact that
Yeah,
yeah, you put a animal cornered. Yeah,
you're not going to corner a Bigfoot,
so,
bro. Like, I'm sorry,
right,
that's not possible. In my view, that's just not possible. There's not one Bigfoot researcher in this world who's ever going to corner a Bigfoot. I mean, it'd have to be
yeah,
an in or something like, I'm convinced, and it's the only thing that makes sense. I'm just convinced that their absolute superiority in their environment over us.
oh yeah,
which is not our environment.
I believe that,
dude. We're not good in the woods, actually. You might think you are, but you're not. Like, not compared to them. That's for sure. Well, I mean,
oh yeah.
let me put it to you this way,
No, I was
Daniel.
just joking. I was gonna say speak. I know. I was just joking. I was gonna say speak for yourself, but I was. I was just joking with you.
Do you think you have the efficiency of a deer when you're in the woods? Nope. Do you think you have the efficiency of a mountain lion or a bear? You think you're as efficient as animals are? Hell no. Not even close, right? You have to bring gear. You have to bring things with you. Those animals don't need any of that stuff. They don't wear backpacks, right? They don't. You know what I mean? It's like we're not efficient at all in the woods. Like, it's not really our environment.
Right.
But we can go there. We can exist there. We can bring the modern world with us. But yeah, I mean, you don't want to get dropped off in the middle of nowhere in British Columbia, blindfolded, and you don't know where you're at, 100 miles away from the nearest town. You might not survive. Whereas a bear would. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So that's why we're outclassed.
Absolutely. We've been on over 2 hours already. Pretty good. All right.
Well, you want to wrap it up?
We're going to be coming to a close very soon. Yeah, I was going to give anybody on the comments a chance to throw out any last minute questions. If I don't see questions within the next couple of minutes, then we'll go ahead and close it out. Hold on 1 second. There, pull up my live chat. So yeah, if you guys have any last minute questions or anything that we could try to answer before we jump off of the evening, go ahead. Please feel free to do that. I'm watching the live chat, and I really like the way this discussion went tonight. So yeah, again, I want to remind everybody too, while I'm giving anybody time to throw out a question. I want to remind everybody to pop down and look into the description on YouTube here. If you're on the YouTube side, look at the description. There's actually links to 2 Bigfoot books. One's a Wildlife and Bigfoot Field Guide. It's an objective view, and the other book is titled Learning Bigfoot. It's actually a very interesting take on science, religion, and different looks at all the different theories that people believe in, and with my research added in there. So definitely take the time and Yep. Take a look at everything, and one more thing too, while we're waiting on questions, I'll throw this out there. Check out the website, VirginiaBigfootCon.com. Check out the website, and if you're on Facebook, we have the Facebook event page. You could definitely check that out now. If you're interested in being a vendor, you can go to the website. There is a contact form that will come directly emailed to me. I do check my emails daily, so yes, take advantage of that. And if you want details, I'll be glad to share details. And
thanks, David.
So
we try.
Oh yeah. Let's see.
No question.
Alrighty.
Come on, somebody throw a question out
there. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, like how tall am I, or
I'm actually.
How many famous people does Daniel know? Like something. Like, come on, there's got to be a weird question, right?
So
I'm 6'8", by the way, 6'8".
What's that now?
I was answering my own question. I'm 6'8".
I have a hard time believing that. I take it you're a small guy.
Well,
I'm thinking you're more like 5'9", 5'8", 5'9".
6'8", dude.
That's not telling me nothing.
Hey, you see that ceiling?
All right, Patrick's got a
ceiling right there. 6'8". That was a gift.
Patrick's asking, where did you get the neck chain? Oh, a gift. Okay.
Yeah.
All righty. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's go ahead and wrap it up. Patrick, Pat, do you have anything you want to throw out there before we jump off?
The camera adds 2 feet. You might be right.
Yeah, I saw
that. Although I'm not 4'8". I'm not 4'8". My girlfriend is. So yes, everybody watching tonight, go join the Squatch Talk group. We're doing a sub count with the ECBRO. We're in a like a battle. Who can get the most subs? So.
Oh, and you talking about your YouTube channel?
Or well, no, just I don't know, like something like that. Yeah. But yeah, dude, like yeah, join the Squatch Talk group, which isn't there anymore. Wait, where'd it go? And yeah, Patrick Vaughn.
Because I got the thing posted up.
Yeah. And Patrick Vaughn hit me up on Facebook. And so if you join the Squatch Talk group, just go to Facebook, search Squatch Talk. I'll pop up. And join my group, man, and hit me up on Facebook too, Patrick. And that's it.
Hey, before we jump off, we're going to answer this one question.
Okay.
I just found out that Raptor Crazy asked a question. I overlooked it, so here it is. He said, I came in late. I have one last question. Do you believe that they head south for the winter or migrate? Well, real quick, one thing I'll throw out there too. Just like, got to consider the other wildlife. When cold winters and winters move in and into these areas where your known species are, you got to consider what do they do. A lot of them, like deer, for example, they're going to move where the food source goes. You got to think of where the prey moves and what do they do to survive. Uh, a lot of your deer, um, they will stay in areas where they know where the food is, or they'll go up to higher ground or venture into lower ground in a different location. So if the prey are moving, you got to consider Bigfoot goes in that direction. If the Bigfoot's going to survive, they got to stay where the water sources. They got to stay where the food sources. Um, so a lot of your prey are going to be around where the water source is. So think about where your prey is. That's where you'll find your predators. So that's
Yeah.
my 2 cents. If you want to add to that, feel free.
Yeah, I do. I mean, I don't think there's a real. There might be some kind of avenue for them. Like if you're thinking about the move south for the winter concept, I really just there might be some kind of avenue for a Bigfoot in upstate New York to move south. Maybe, probably not. I'm thinking there's way too many choke points along the way. But if you look at
Too many
the
obstacles.
yeah, I mean, but if you look at the Appalachian chain, obviously we have a trail called the Appalachian Trail that goes from Georgia to Maine. So that avenue does exist along that mountain range. So it's possible. But I'll say this: once they get to Georgia, they got no place to go, because once they come to where I am, they have to walk straight through Atlanta, Georgia, which is 5 million people. So that if they do move south, they don't move any further south than where I'm at right now, for sure. Because then you hit a
Unless
brick wall of people and lights and civilization,
exactly.
and nobody ever sees them, just walking down the street,
Yep.
right? So yeah, that's kind of my 2
The
cents.
only thing that moved.
Mhm.
Yeah, the only thing I know, or anything that we know that does move down south, has wings, and
Right.
ducks and Canadian geese, mainly Canadian geese, they do head south for the winter into a more warmer climate.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's a little illogical to consider that Bigfoot would travel hundreds and hundreds of miles. Winter times here, Bigfoot must be on vacation down in Florida. I mean, very unlikely. I mean, that's the way I look at it. When people say, "Do they move down south?" You got to consider the terrain and the miles. Is a Bigfoot going to travel on foot so many miles? And then what Pat said, going, you're going to run into people, you're going to run into population, you're going to run into obstacles. It just doesn't make no sense that they would do such a thing where they try to remain elusive.
But good.
So,
I mean, if you think about it, like, if you think about it, Daniel, like, I mean, I could literally go get on the Appalachian Trail and walk pretty far up to Virginia from Georgia to within, like, maybe, I don't know, the Appalachian Trails. I don't know how close it is to where you're at now, but I could probably get close enough to call you up and say, "Hey, man, I just walked the AT up to your area. Come pick me up," right? So a Bigfoot could do the same without having to be on that. Because you know how the Appalachians are. I mean, so technically they could travel a great distance through the Appalachian mountain chain. They could, but all I'm saying is once they got here,
well, here's
the south end of the Appalachians, then they have to deal with Atlanta, Georgia, and like I said, 5 million people. So they can't go any further than that. There's no connection to any other part of the country. There's no way they could get into Florida. It would be impossible. People would be seeing them all the time,
Well, here's another thing too. You have to ask yourself this question: can Bigfoot predict the weather and know that a blizzard and with the next 2 days you're going to get hit with 3-4 feet of snow? And are they going to do they know where locations to go take shelter in? I mean, that's another thing people got to think about. If they're already in a area, if they're already inhabiting a certain location or general area, they know the terrain. They know where they can hide. Are they going to just leave their safe, I guess you could say their safe place, and go venture off into strange lands, like, and a storm comes and other disasters, and they're not going to know where to go, unless they could build a super deep hole in a matter of minutes,
Right.
to go underneath the ground, which we don't know that, and I think that's so. But I don't know.
Yeah.
That's just the way I look at it. There's different ways you could look at things and think about trying to keep it logical.
My opinion is that they just exist in their sort of relative geographic areas, like their regional areas.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think they're just around in their areas. Certainly, for certain, we could say, like, I mean, if they're in Washington State, they don't have anything to do with any kind of Bigfoot in Virginia. Like, there's no interaction. There's zero travel for them. There's no mechanism known to man that they could ever get there, So there are certain areas we could rule out any kind of like connection or interaction, which back in the day could have been a thing, 400 years ago, right? They could have traveled maybe that across the country because they weren't dealing with modern humans,
Right.
They were literally dealing with
that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So, but not today. Not today.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And all right, very good. And one last thing before we go off air, we had a few people jump on at the last minute here. I do want to give a shout out to someone I see on the Facebook side, Larry Batson. For those who know, Larry the Animal Guy.
Oh, Larry.
If you're not familiar with him, check him out. He's on Facebook. He does go live. Yeah, we've had him on here before. He's got some great stories and has a lot of in-depth information, especially on wildlife. Because he actually has animals he raises, which is quite fascinating. He's got primates. I think he's got a bear.
I met Larry last night. I just met Larry last night.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I did. I was a part of the.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he's a very nice guy.
Yeah, I was a part of the sit-in on the researchers report on Bigfoot Odyssey, and yeah, cool guy. He's
okay.
He's Larry is ill right now. Larry has the COVID. I don't know if I should have said that or not, but Larry has been under the weather. And everybody wish him well. So.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm sorry to hear that. I hope you do get well soon, Larry. But yeah, again, for those who don't know him, if you're on Facebook, check him out. Larry the Animal Guy is what he goes by. You can find him under his Facebook name, Larry Batson. I'll actually give me a second. I'll throw his name up there so you know the spelling. That's him right there, Larry Batson, and that's his profile picture on Facebook. Him with a small ape on his back. So check that out, everybody. You guys have a good night. Thank you guys for tuning in tonight. And if you have not done so, feel free to share this around. And if you have not done so, subscribe. And we'll see you next Friday, guys. And I'm